I was recently sent a beautiful new clay to try. I have spoken about it before. It's Morin. It's made in Japan, and when testing a new clay, one of the things I want to do is use it to make a ring. So even though fine silver clay usually isn't what I would advise to make a ring, usually that's for sterling silver clay, I wanted to see how this would do, making that kind of shape and form, and then holding up to wear. So I decided to make a snake, and I'm actually going to show you a couple times where I changed the technique that I was using because I'm working this out as I go. So here is an improv snake ring made with Morin clay. So far I have this general shape. I've given it a mouth and eyes just to help orient myself. And then I wanted to use this texture tile, which isn't long enough to accommodate the whole snake. So I had the idea to impress it in two parts. So here I'm giving it the details on the tail, but then I realized I think if I do it on the diagonal, it'll just fit, and so I'm re-stamping it. And I'm going to have to deal with the head neck area. That's okay. And this is the impression that I had from the texture tile, and I'm happy with it. This is such a beautiful smooth clay that really takes textures so well. So my concept here is a little wrapped snake, and I do want to take the time to make sure that these join in a way that will make this one piece of clay. I want to put the head up on the body, and then this has a bit of memory, so it's coming apart, so I'm just going to keep nudging it really gently until it bonds. And this is what I have for my basic form. The head portion is just a stand-in at this point. So I sent the body to dry a little bit, and now I'm going to work on the head. My first idea was to augment this with a little bit of clay. And then I realized right here that the top portion just wasn't attached enough to work with. Sometimes that's a relief because now I can refine this without having to be precious about it. So I'm going to smooth out the lower jaw. And then I'm going to send this whole thing to dry because the ring really should be dry before I put too much pressure on it. So I'm going to set this over my clay dryer. And then once it was totally dry, I did some head construction, and now I have this, which is what I was hoping for, so I'm happy with this, but there is quite a bit to do still because one, I want to do some refining, and two, I want to give it cubic zirconia eyes. So, first thing I want to do is the refining because I want the design to be pretty set by the time I put the stones in. I don't want parts of this to move too much. I really want the stones to be a last step. So I'm going to do some sanding on the ring band. And I'm going to do some sanding on the head while I make sure that it's also symmetrical. I'm going to do a little more carving on the mouth. I thought I might give it a tongue, but I settled for this mouth shape. I'm going to do a little refining here where I built the head and neck up. There's just a little overflow of paste in here from when I added paste layers to integrate the head and neck with the texture. The next step will be to put in pilot holes where I think I want the eyes to go. This helps me start the drilling process, and also gives me a chance to make sure that I have them aligned with each other, which is a bit tricky sometimes. And the alignment is good, but what I'm realizing here is that my smallest cubic zirconia I have at the moment are 3 millimeters wide, which measures the diameter at the widest point. And I don't think these eye stacks can accommodate 3 millimeters of stone. Yes, this is confirming that I do not have room to put the stones in. So this is what happens when you don't have a plan sometimes. We have to evolve along the way, which is okay because the clay is dry. I don't have any clay drying out of place here. So here I know that what I want to do to execute my vision is add on to the head height. And I just would like to take a moment here to admire this snake in a beret. Almost left it like this because, wow, that's so cute. This is how I come up with my future to-do list. Snake in a beret. Okay, it will happen. But I wanted to see this through. So I am attaching wet clay to dry. And I'm using my silicone shaper to integrate the two. And then I'll go back in with water and a finger. And then I'm going to re-enlarge the holes that I have set for the CZs. And now I have enough height to take the stones. I'm also noticing that this feels a little bit frog-like, so I'm going to keep an eye on that as this goes. It's in a cute way, but I just want it to be clear what kind of animal we're looking at the end. And I think it's feeling a little frog-like now because the center of the head needs to be taller to bridge the two eye areas. And so I did add more clay between them. And now I'm happy with it. And now this is exactly what I would like it to look like once it's fired, but because it will shrink, I did spend about 10 more minutes deepening the eye socket so that I could then set the cubic zirconia, which I did just using pressure to push it down into that conical shape that I'd carved. And because it's fine silver, I wanted it to be in the 2 millimeter range. I also wanted to check its pre-fired size. We're looking at about a 9 here, but I don't want to force it on to the mandrel. And now we're going to kiln fire it. I put this in for 1650 for 2 hours. And I got this beauty out, and it's just exactly what I wanted it to be, which is always so fun. And now I get to test the strength of this fine silver clay as a ring. And its fired size is about 6.5. And I'm also going to check size on the graduated mandrel because the stepped mandrel isn't accurate, and it's telling us it's about a 6.5. Fortunately, that's my size. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, this clay is absolutely dreamy to work with when it comes to market here in the US, which they're working on. Hopefully it will happen soon. I highly recommend Morin clay.